Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we got ourselves a track from an act named Sodia titled Little Prayer. And if we switch over to here, we've got ourselves a video on the screen here. I've been sent the music video for it. I should note that this is not the first time I've checked out Sodia's work. Same band, they make some great music. Looking forward to hearing more. So we're going to listen through this track from start till finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it, let's go. What do we got? It's relatively subtle until that lead on the left, isn't it?
The autumn leaves like a mud in flames. I want to hold your hand. Yeah, you're so far away. Why can't I reach you anymore? Why can't I remember your voice? I beg you, please take my tears and don't show me where to live.
Great harmonies. It's just huge sounding, isn't it?
Life must continue on, and we must be strong. Even when you're gone in heaven, I must not mourn, and I must not grieve, for I still miss you, and I wish you well, and I wish you well. Love will cry when down will walk. The wild lies beneath the door. I'm sure it's peace and harmony. Stroking his left foot with their last breath. I can do and say this. I pray for you in heaven.
It's so spicy with the guitar note.
With my lonely tears,
I mean, are we going between keys, or are they deliberately just chromatic within the same scale? Little Prayer. Very grungy in a good way, I think. We're gonna talk about this more though in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Sodia titled Little Prayer. In this section, I'm going to provide an overall song analysis from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But before we go any further, what do we think this track is about? We talk in the lyrics about, you know, being so far away, why can't I reach you anymore? It does seem like they're missing someone, or that somebody is gone that they wish they could connect with. And when we talk about in the next verse, life continuing on, the fact that we must be strong. Now, full disclosure, I have been advised. Apparently, it is a tribute to Sammy's grandmother, who unfortunately passed away in last May. So apparently, Sammy's grandmother prayed a lot when she used to come visit with the grandfather, and that's kind of part of why it connects. I think this track is more so working through recovering from the loss of someone incredibly important to you, going through all those memories that you have with that person, trying to find a way to sort of like cope with the grief and everything like that. So it's an interesting journey that we go on with it. I like how kind-hearted it is, as well as it being like a real story that they've lived and are putting out there, and showing a bit of vulnerability as well and a bit of humanity. I appreciate that. And I think there'll be an audience of people who can at least relate to some of the subject matter, even if they don't know the backstory. They can relate to the lyrics of, again, not being able to reach someone with the person being gone, but needing to sort of continue on, be strong, etc., as life does continue. I think the vocal performance throughout this is quite well done. Technically, we're quite comfortable on a hidden chest voice, but a vocal fry occasionally. Some of those harmonies that we have there vocally are quite nice. Apparently, the melody was done by the singer Augustine, so that's cool. And it's just nice to not just have a solo voicing, especially with the amount of kind of interesting stuff going on with the guitars. For the vocals to have different angles to explore different intensities is nice, as well as different loudnesses. But also, even though we do have some parts that are a lot more vibrant and huge sounding, such as the roaring kind of outro of the track, we do also have some quieter parts where the guitars... We do have some quieter parts where the vocals aren't even present at all. We allow the other lead elements to have their time in the sun, and I think that's really neat. But yeah, just as a closing comment, I think those vocal harmonies are just a nice way to do double tracking a bit differently, in a way that, again, I think is stylistically appropriate for a lot of the heavy rock and kind of grunge stuff that came out in the early 90s. So yeah, honestly, we hit the notes well. Interesting tone and texture to it, suitable for the genre. The track itself is 3 minutes 58, I think almost 4 minutes. So that's quite well fleshed out. There's no filler in it. A range of different verses and choruses and sort of instrumental sections and other interesting elements. We start with the bass line, and that's quite pervasive immediately. It's got a nice kind of pull in it, a body in the lower end. But what's also kind of neat is just the minimalism outside of that. You have this compelling melody there that kind of goes between the tonic and the Phrygian flat second, and does some interesting stuff modally around there. But then you have some cymbal shimmers, and you have the guitar only on the left side around that 10 second mark there, just adding a bit of animosity and flavor to the piece, letting you know you're going to build. And indeed you do. You have the vocals coming around like the 20-second mark, and they start with those harmonies, and it's very kind of like intriguing. What I think is kind of cool about this track is that it adjusts tempos. It doesn't just play the same speed the whole time. It's almost like we're pushing and pulling between different realities or different perspectives. I think the normal time and halftime changes between these faster and slower sections as well are really cool. It does really sound like we're working through our grief. And I think the drums, to be fair, have a wide variety of different kick, cymbal, and snare patterns. Quarters, eighths, 16th, so well handled. I also like some of the ideas we have on the tom patterns. It's just a very tight performance there, and the drummer really does need to be metronomic in order to be able to pull this kind of stuff off. But I think that in contrast to the punchiness of those drums, the way the guitars sound there with this, how soaked they are with gain, is great. It's this kind of warm texture there, which is simultaneously loving but heavy. And we play around with these chromatic melodies and other sort of ideas, in different elements there, and we do call and responses going back and forth between the different sides of the stereo field, as well as interesting articulations with like some of the tremolo bar stuff, playing with noises and chromatic notes with the power chords and melodies, with also these kind of dusty sounding clean guitar parts such as 2 minutes 20, which earlier as well, but just especially compelling in part because of the contrast from the elements earlier. And I like the adjustment and variety of rhythms there as well with the leads. I think that's pretty cool. And when you have those cool responses between the guitars and our solo section part, they do inadvertently harmonize with each other, and it does sound like lots of different exciting fun things are occurring, even though again the subject matter is heavy. I think there's also some keys in there that I can hear, which is an interesting, it's like very subtle, but I like that we're adding a little bit of extra instrumental development at the end to not to take the listener's attention for granted, and just to add a different sound there. And there are lots of different sections within it. It's not just like we have A, B, etc. We have A, B, C, D, and E. And in 4 minutes, that's not something you should take for granted. Even like parts where at 3 minutes, you just have the toms going don, 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 and there's just this emptiness there. But as we go into the afterlife, we sing that last part there, and we have that little prayer vocal over top of the finish. It's kind of almost, surreal. I think you need multiple listens with this to fully sort of understand the nuance associated with it. Really pretty, just as a closing comment before I go into the theme and production stuff, really pretty, those like notes there in the head voice, the falsetto there, whilst the vocals are going over top of that 225 bit is really neat. Really pretty. I like that we're comfortable exploring less kind of uncomfortable gritty sounds or textures, but we also have an inherent sweetness when we want to be. We're aware of the nuance that's required to make an interesting song. Thematically, the track is minor leaning, regardless of any of the different sort of like key signatures or bass lines or chord progression it utters. The vocals are typically the focal point of whatever they're doing there. I think that it's more about the scope and the posture of the section we're in rather than trying to make sort of catchy sounding like vocal lines or anything like that. Although I do think the individual ideas that we have in the different segments are all quite well articulated. I like that they don't just rely on the same chord progression the entire time, that we switch things up and don't make things too predictable. And even though there are some parts there, like in terms of the note choices that sound deliberately almost dissonant in the way they kind of antagonize what's existing in terms of the scales and modes, it's done in a way where I think it's, again, trying to infer the pain that we're dealing with and the kind of those uncomfortable thoughts as they are pervasive. But yeah, really interesting song, and I think the minor key leaning, considering the loss we've gone through, makes complete sense, with the Phrygian just adding a bit of darkness to it and some of the other sort of like chromaticisms adding a bit of sort of, but there's also some grand fourths and sixths there to make it sound a bit larger than life as well, which I appreciate, like we're ascending. Studio recording, mixing and mastering is well handled. I like the way the vocals are carried in the mix, whether there's fry or not fry, whether they're harmonies or melodies, they're the way they're sort of split in the sides and in the center as well. The fact that we've compressed and EQ'd and done tails and nod to have presence regardless of what we're doing in the mix is cool. The guitar is nicely double tracked on the side there, the drums split around the stereo field, as well as the bass being nicely primed in the low end, and I think if there were keys, they were nicely around the mid end with the right as well. No weird issues or resonant frequencies within the frequency spectrum. Stuff's quite well niched. Music surrounds you in the stereo field. I like the asymmetry at the start with those the guitar lead as well. I thought that was kind of cool. We play around with that back and forth there. It's very cool. Nice and loud. Bass compression limiting is handled there without pumping too much, and it just generally, no applicable constructive critique. It sounds like how it would be produced if you were making a song within the style of music they were doing. Again, I think that the note choices, if I was confused about any of them, it was a deliberate thing to make the listener understand that this was a difficult experience for the people telling the story or playing the story. And from a final general listener's perspective, again, I'm sorry for Sammy Sodia is lost. It's a terrible thing losing a family member, especially someone that means so much, but I think this is a wonderful tribute, and I wish everyone involved all the best of luck in future with their music and otherwise. But thank you for watching my review of this track from Sodia, titled A Little Prayer. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via the various social medias. I'm sure this is on all digital streaming platforms. And stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands Out.